Greetings, LEGO fans, and today I'm surrounded by a dream that I've had ever since I was about 8 years old. At that time, I was spending countless hours playing a little game called LEGO Island. Even back then, I would daydream about recreating the island in real life out of LEGO. Well, that dream is finally coming true, as I've managed to faithfully recreate every building and minifigure from the game. Today, I'll show you how I got to this point, and in a future video, I'll actually be building the island itself, all leading up to displaying it at my local LEGO convention in August. And I've already reserved the display space, so I'm really committing to this one. So, without further ado, let's dive into how I made these previously digital buildings and minifigures into a LEGO reality. Most of you who've played the game have probably noticed that there were a few locations on the island that are based on real pre-existing LEGO sets. The most notable of these is the police station, where you can feed donuts to cops and build the fateful helicopter. The station as seen in the game is a modified version of set number 6598, the Metro PD station from 1996. Even before I played LEGO Island, this set had me mesmerized in catalogs, so getting it for this project was a real two birds with one stone situation. Since the original set is built in the typical open-back dollhouse style, the biggest modification here was the enclosure of the rear of the building. To recreate this faithfully, I had some help. I've got to give a huge shout out to YouTuber Brian's Bricks, who put in the hard work of creating studio files for all of the LEGO Island buildings, including this one. These are all extremely accurate to the in-game buildings, and even though I didn't end up following these designs to a T, they were an excellent foundational resource. As of the publishing of this video, all of his studio files are still available to download for free, and I'll link them in the description. Since I had already picked up the original Metro PD station set, I just selected the add-on section and made it my first addition to an ever-growing wanted list on Bricklink. Eventually, the parts I needed for all the buildings would be compiled into this one big list. Once I edited or deleted the entries for pieces I already had, I then decided which ones I wanted to purchase from Bricklink or from LEGO's website. For the most part, I ordered the older retired pieces from Bricklink and the still in production pieces directly from LEGO. Once the parts arrived, it was a simple matter of building out the addition and removing some of the side elements not seen in the game. And voila, a game-accurate police station. But that's not all the original set includes. You also get the largely game-accurate Brickster's jail cell too. I simply swapped out the green base plate for gray, removed the satellite dish, and added the no pizzazz sign, purposely misspelled to reflect Pepper's not-so-great literacy skills. And while we're on the subject of the Brickster, this wisecracking misanthrope is a must-have minifigure to go with the jail.
I am free to do whatever I choose, and I choose to take apart this town, brick by brick.
Luckily, the Jailbreak Joe minifigure included with the original set already gives you his torso. Just throw on some black pants, a blue glove, and a backwards baseball cap, and you're most of the way there. The final touch I insisted on was a game-accurate face. I accomplished this with the embarrassingly simple method of just screenshotting his face from the game and printing it on sticker paper. In fact, this was the same method I used for all the other characters that didn't have official LEGO elements I could source. Of course, I'd like to get these faces professionally pad printed someday, but these homemade decals do the trick for now, especially because I kinda like how they replicate the tacked on look of the faces in the game. I should mention that there is an official LEGO Brickster that they sold alongside the release of LEGO Island Extreme Stunts, but it just doesn't do it for me. Though I think he'd be passable if you didn't want to go the custom decal route. Enough with the criminal though. You can't have a police station without some police officers, and LEGO Island's two most beloved ones are Nick and Laura Brick, both of whom are playable characters in the game. Nick, with his excellent memory and cockeyed glare,
Situation red. Situation is beyond red, whatever that color would be.
And Laura, with her charming Midwestern accent and optimistic outlook.
Pepper, follow him and click on everything he drops. We need it as evidence.
Keep
Let's
on him,
do it,
son.
team.
Much like with the Brickster, the Metro PD station already provides you with the necessary torsos for these two, and with a couple of pairs of blue pants, black baseball caps, and 2 more custom decals, they can be easily brought to life in real Lego form. The last remaining officer is the easiest to build, Captain D. Rom, who wears the standard police uniform of the era with a pair of sunglasses and a black cap.
You're under arrest. Oh, it's you. You're not under arrest. But wait, I'm watching you.
The famed helicopter you build in the game, suspiciously and conveniently parked next to the Brickster's jail cell, is also included in the Metro PD set. Pretty handy. Assisting you in your building process is expert engineer Bill Ding, who is there to help you build all of the vehicles across the island. Fortunately, he's made of all genuine Lego parts, with his bulldozer logoed torso print having been featured prominently in the construction sets of the era. His white baseball cap technically switches logos with every build, but I kept it blank, suggesting that he's ready for anything you need a hand with. And with all that, the police station is ready for action. The next pre-existing set used in Lego Island was set number 6334, Wave Jump Racers, also from 1996. This was used for the beachside shack where you can build your own jet ski and participate in a wild race around the island. Luckily, there's no modification to the set required, aside from removing the included palm tree if you want to get really technical. The set even includes the same exact jet ski you build in the game, and the necessary pieces to build the surfer-voiced Snap Locket, who invites you to participate in the race.
Very cool indeed. The race begins when you pull up to that buoy out there.
The final building based on an official Lego set was the racetrack, which is set number 6337, Fast Track Finish. This one is pretty much a drag and drop, as it basically appears the same in the game as it does in real life. There's one pretty important addition though, the spectator stands, which may be simple enough to build by eye, but studio files once again come in handy here. For that extra dash of authenticity, I printed 3 Octon brand decals to adorn the back of the stands, reflecting their appearance in-game. The racetrack wouldn't be complete without Rhoda Hogg and Studs Lincoln, your 2 trash-talking opponents.
I'm Studs Lincoln, champion race driver and your worst nightmare.
You proved yourself today, kid.
Both of their torsos are included with Fast Track Finish. Studs Lincoln uses a face print that was pretty common in 90s town and city sets, wearing blue sunglasses and generous stubble. I actually couldn't find Rhoda Hogg's face print in an official Lego element, so she got the decal treatment with her red-lipped variation on the standard black sunglasses print of that era. My somewhat ambitious plan is to eventually integrate a miniaturized version of the underground portions of the racetrack underneath the residential area, complete with homages to all the wackiness going on in there. So wish me luck on that. Speaking of the residential area, the game's first exclusive buildings are its 3 different houses. Well, 3 at a time at least. The catch is that this particular house can be rotated between 5 alternate models if you're playing as Pepper. For the purposes of my own island, I'm just sticking with the default house seen in the intro. Luckily, the studio files we've been working with actually do have those alternate houses available, so they can be built at your leisure. For the model I chose, I departed from the studio files design by adding a removable roof in the spirit of a modular building, which comes off in 3 different sections. This will come in handy if I choose to fill out the interior. I used this same modular style technique with my favorite house, what I like to call the artist's bungalow. The slanted red windows of this house always made this one particularly memorable, feeling like a 70s style atrium. I added a little extra trim to the roof to give this one a little more dimension, but otherwise left it identical to its in-game appearance. The third house is perhaps the most boring of the bunch, but I added a removable roof to this one as well to keep consistency with the others. These houses were by far the easiest buildings to recreate, as there weren't any specialty decals or particularly rare pieces to contend with. The residents of Lego Island need somewhere to eat, and they have precisely one place to do that: Mama and Papa Briccolini's Pizzeria. This is a strong contender for my favorite building on the island, and one of my favorite hangout spots in the game. This one also proved to be one of the trickier builds of the bunch, not so much in its construction, but in its decorative details. Much like with the face decals I've mentioned, I screenshotted the pizzeria signs directly from the game and printed them out on the same sticker paper. The roof was a particularly interesting challenge, as the game calls for the look of ceramic tile. The studio file for this build plugged in an element that didn't really match the in-game appearance, and didn't actually exist in white as far as I could tell. So I had to go the decal route there as well. Call it laziness if you like, but I just printed out a single decal to span the width of each side of the roof. Normally I despise it when a sticker covers more than one piece in an official Lego set, but I'm willing to let it slide here. Much like with the houses, I also modularized the roof of the pizzeria to make it more accessible inside. Manning the brick oven is Papa Briccolini himself, one of Lego Island's playable characters and the maker of the most irresistible pizzas around.
This is for Nubby, but if he keeps this up, we'll have to start calling him Stubby.
His torso was easy to find, having been featured prominently in Classic Town and Paradisa sets. His hat is an element that's still made today, which made his custom face decal the only part I couldn't source from official Lego elements. Another playable character, Mama Briccolini, who is most often found tickling the ivories at the pizzeria, also required a custom face decal. And if her torso print exists as a real Lego element somewhere, I couldn't find it, so it got the decal treatment as well.
Hey, Pepper, what do you think of this? That's nice, isn't it?
Finally, we have fan-favorite playable character Pepperoni, the adopted son of the Briccolinis. There's technically an official Lego version of Pepper, but it comes from Lego Island Extreme Stunts again and just doesn't look the part for the original game. So, with a few decals for his torso, face, and hat, he's brought to life in his original form.
S-P-E-L-L, spell. Hey, that's swell.
I still need to get him a skateboard to complete the ensemble, but that'll have to wait for the next video. I'm so thrilled with how the pizzeria and its memorable characters turned out, and I can't wait for it to be fully integrated into the island, jukebox and all. Right next to the pizzeria is the post office. A small and very simple build, it shares the same roof pattern as the pizzeria, so I just used the same method here. I did modularize the roof, but there are no interior details yet, nor do I necessarily have plans to add them due to the building's tiny footprint. The blue doors here were particularly hard to get a hold of, with their rarity making them only available from European sellers when I was looking. The island has a generous handful of buildings that call for these though, so I had to just bite the bullet on shipping. Delivering the mail is the rather melancholy mailman, appropriately named Ed Mail, or Email for short. I always loved his comedically somber monologues, and he's the brother of Dr. Clickett, who we'll see later, with whom he shares his mustachioed faceprint, which saw use in a handful of sets across the town and city themes. His blue zippered jacket print was all over sets in the 90s and early 2000s. And to more closely match its appearance in the game, I added a tiny sticker with a postal letter icon on his chest. Just down the street from the post office is the Super 2, Lego Island's all-purpose store. The sign up top was once again created by screenshotting the in-game sign and making a sticker. One thing to note here is that many of Lego Island's buildings, including this one, call for these tri-panel windows in blue. Despite my best efforts, I can only find a total of 2 of them for sale, so I substituted them in every case with single-panel blue windows. Personally, I don't think they affect the look all that much, and they were the best workaround I could find. Though you can't actually go into the store in the game, I felt it deserved an interior given its ample space. So I built a handful of shelves full of merchandise and a simple cash register, at which you'll most likely find Maggie Post, purveyor of this establishment. She's made out of all common elements with the exception of her torso print, which I couldn't find in an official element. Though it doesn't play a particularly large role in the game, I'm glad there's at least somewhere for the island's residents to get their groceries. Continuing our streak of purely practical buildings is the bank, another place you can't really interact with aside from clicking on it to make it dance. The exterior called for 2 little custom $sign decals, but other than adding a little bit of white trim on the top, I just followed the studio instructions on this one, not even bothering to modularize the roof. I might eventually add an interior, but the space provided is so small and awkward that it would be hard to fit anything particularly meaningful in there. Buck Pounds, the banker whose role in the game is basically to tell you the bank is closed, is made up entirely of common elements except for his torso print, which, you guessed it, is a custom sticker. Now on to the gas station, something you'd never find in modern LEGO, making it all the more a relic of the past. With its prominent Octan branding, it just screams 90s LEGO Town, even though it was never actually a set. I'm sure there are official LEGO branded stickers that could have worked for the signage here, but I just printed my own, as I could control their size as I needed. On the inside, I built a small version of the rotating shelves you use for the dune buggy you're invited to build, which can be easily accessed via the removable roof. The dune buggy itself is an actual set, number 6518, the Baja Buggy from 1996. I remember it so fondly from the game, and it was so affordable that I couldn't resist picking it up.
Well, ain't she a beaut? Click on the car if you want to get in. Drive safe now.
Running the station are the dynamic duo of Nubby Stevens and Nancy Nubbins.
Nubby, honey, someone's got to get over to the track right away. There's a rush job, and you know those track people. They want everything fast.
Nancy, I can't go. I've got 2 cars on the blocks already.
Nubby shares the same torso print as Bill Ding and the same face print as Studs Lincoln, making him easy to build with all genuine LEGO elements. Nancy, on the other hand, was a tricky one. In addition to needing decals for her torso and face prints, her hat was particularly hard to find, only having appeared in 2 cowboy sets from the mid-70s. I ended up having to drop $20 on that part alone. Yikes! But the island just wouldn't be complete without the famed singer of Brick by Brick. The tow truck you're tasked with driving is actually included in the Fast Track Finish set we talked about earlier, allowing you to complete that mission as well. A short drive down the road is the hospital, which I could have sworn was a real set, but alas, it never was. Even though I couldn't find the tri-panel blue windows that this building technically calls for, I was lucky enough to find single-panel ones with the horizontal stripe stickers on the bottom, keeping the hospital looking as game-accurate as possible. Again, there are probably some official LEGO stickers with the Star of Life that I could have used here, but it was just easier to create them myself. I felt this building deserved an interior, so I modularized both floors to allow for a waiting room, a treatment area, and Dr. Clickett's office on the 2nd floor. The ambulance was also an essential part of this build, as it features heavily in the Brickster Escape storyline.
Come in, Nick. Come in, Laura. The ambulance was stolen, and we think the Brickster's plan is to take apart the town.
Many of the parts needed for this were tough to find on their own, but a very similar set, number 6666 from 1994, had just about all of the key pieces, including the Star of Life panels, the windows, and the rear hatch. It's a pretty rare set though, and I could only find it from an Australian seller at the time, which was a tad pricey. Nevertheless, the ambulance was able to be completed, and that opened the door to recreating some cheeky little stories from the game. That ambulance set also enabled me to build Dr. Clickett, the island's overworked medical practitioner, whose hat and torso were included there.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you at first. I see you now, of course, and I'm really glad you're here. I'm going to pieces, as you can see it.
Some blue pants, blue arms, and the same face print as his mailman brother complete the ensemble. His two goofy assistants, Enter and Return, share his torso print, and I was lucky enough to find two of these torsos in the Build a Minifigure area at my local Bricks and Minifigs. Talk about a lucky find. Add some classic smiley faces and white baseball caps, and these guys are ready for some wacky hijinks in the ambulance. And finally, we have the most iconic structure in the whole game, the Information Center. This was easily the building that I was most excited to make, as its instant recognizability made it an irresistible build to try. The most expensive part of the build was the observation tower, as those glass octagonal panels, particularly the corner pieces, were a bit on the pricey side. Speaking of the tower, I simply couldn't resist adding some interior details, including the paper plane shooter, the weather panel, and the LEGO radio.
In your home or in your car, you are never really far from LEGO radio.
I also added a removable roof to the main area of the build, but I haven't put anything inside just yet. Running the show at the Information Center is the Infomaniac himself, the creator of LEGO Island and your constant guide through the gameplay.
Hello!
He's the only complete minifigure from this game that was ever available from LEGO, and he's a rare one, commanding a minimum $40 price tag. I picked him up back when I was doing my first LEGO Island video, so I was lucky enough to already have him. There's a LEGO Island Extreme Stunts version of him available too, but in my opinion, that one looks like a generic brand version, though it's much less expensive and could easily work in a pinch. The Information Center is such a beautiful focal point for the island as a whole, and I'm so happy to have brought it into the real world. The game also has a host of other NPC characters that aren't directly tied to any building, and I'm pretty sure I managed to build just about every character with a name. My favorite of these are the Flying Lagondos, who are always doing impressive acrobatic feats in the park. Having all of these characters will really fill out the world, and I can't wait to place them in fun little vignettes across the completed island. So, what do you think of these recreations from the classic game? Is there anything I missed? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. And be sure to stay tuned for my follow-up video in the next few months, where I'll be placing all of these buildings into a fully built-out and landscaped island. If you want to play LEGO Island for yourself, it's much easier now, thanks to the efforts of Matt KC and an army of decompilers who recently made it possible to play the game in a web browser. Now you can just go to isle.pizza and you'll be playing the game in seconds. No more software configuration required. Finally, thank you so much to the members of the Brick Guild for their ongoing support of this channel. And until next time, as always, keep building.